And we're back with Leaner with Laura. Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to tell you my top 4 tips for losing body fat and staying on track with your nutrition while you are in quarantine. So this is another episode of my Leaner with Laura series. We had like a little pause to the series because, like, you know, when the whole world just went like, the Leaning Out with Laura series just had to change a little bit. So now this is where we're at. So I'm gonna tell you guys how to thrive in the quarantine and get leaner with Laura. So the first tip is a very simple yet underrated technique. So what you want to do is, in the morning, you want to lay out your vegetables for the day. I sound like I'm talking about clothes. You want to prepare and put out your vegetables for the day. And this is for 2 different reasons. One is because a lot of people, like, as the day goes, you get lazy, you get less motivated, and then when you're hungry and it's time to eat, if you don't have something already ready to go, it's super common to just fall into the trap of snacking on other things and just quickly racking up those calories without even realizing it. It's super common. Because think about it, you're hungry, you're like, I want food now. Oh, I could cook up some veggies, but I don't want to wait for that, so I'm just gonna have these chips. So that is why I will show you later in this video, in the morning, even though I use frozen vegetables and they're already quick and easy, I take it a step further and make it even easier for myself. So I pour the frozen veggies into bowls and then I put them on the counter so they're ready to go. So that leads to the next reason why this is helpful, and that's because they're in sight. Every time I go into the kitchen, I see vegetables, and it actually makes a big difference. If you keep seeing something, you're more likely going to eat it. So that is why, like, every time I go into the kitchen, I see my vegetables and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to eat those later. Or even if I get hungry, I might not even think about them. And then I walk in and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta eat those. I should eat those first, shouldn't I? So it's just a good way because it's in clear sight. It's like the opposite of out of sight, out of mind. In sight, top of mind? I don't know, but that's what that does. And then so there you go. So pre-preparing your vegetables specifically, because it's a thing that a lot of people skimp out on, I can understand. So you want to pre-prepare those so you don't have to make any decisions. When you're hungry, you just see them and ba-bam, you eat them. So that's tip number 1. So tip 2 is kind of like the opposite of that. So what you want to do is make your junk food, like, everything is in moderation, so I don't like those words, but you know, we'll just call it that for simplicity's sake. So the foods that you don't want to eat as much of, the foods that you don't want to eat as much of, try to put them somewhere where they're not in your constant vision, because it works the opposite way from point 1, where if every time you walk into the kitchen to get a glass of water, a coffee, a tea, your vegetables, and then you just have like this food staring you in the face, it makes it tougher 100%. So there's people who say the tip, they're like, oh, get rid of all your junk food, blah, blah, blah. But I think for a majority of people, that's not super realistic, because most people live with another person who will kill them if you get rid of their snacks. So the easiest thing is to compromise and say, hey, can we at least move these snacks so they're not like right in my face? So, and that can make a big difference. Obviously, you could still go get them, but it's just another thing slightly pushing you back and slightly decreasing the chances. And worst case scenario is, I mean, it's not really worst case, but let's say you do end up eating whatever the treat food is. If you at least eat your vegetables first, that's gonna make things better. Even if first of all, you're gonna eat less. You're not gonna eat, so let's say you have a big bowl of broccoli before you eat cookies. Even if you end up overdoing it a little bit on the cookies, it's not gonna be as bad as if you had eaten the cookies on like an empty stomach and then, you know, you're gonna overdo it a lot more. Whereas if you fill up on a big bowl of broccoli, like that's pretty filling, and you're even if the craving for the cookie is still there, it's not gonna be as bad. So first 2 points to recap so far is have the vegetables and the things you want to eat in a place where you can really see them. You could even, one more thing, is have like a little baggie of veggies and like keep them on your desk or wherever you work. So again, they're there, and if you're hungry, you're like, okay, I'm gonna have a little snack of this. So yeah, and then on the opposite hand is try to keep the things that you don't want to eat too much of out of sight, out of mind. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so the next tip is a little bit interesting, and this is what I do. So this tip is to try to, if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy cooking a lot, or again, you're someone who like kind of gets lazy, I totally get it. I'm the laziest, like, I don't even want to say cook, I'm the laziest eating person ever. Like, I just can't be bothered. So what I do is make my first meal of the day very large, and then what I do is split it in half and eat some of it later. So then like there's less work, and then I just grab it and go. And also, this is also helpful because for me, eggs and egg whites are a favorite protein source of mine. So I don't mind eating that multiple times a day. So you could do this with a different food, but I'm gonna show you what I do right now. We are going to head on up to the kitchen, and I'm going to show you my delicious egg recipe. It is like egg recipe. It's really, really easy, but I do get people asking me on Instagram exactly how I make this, so I definitely wanted to show it. And it's quick, it's easy, it's really high protein, and you can feed yourself for like 2 meals from it. So if you're busy or lazy or whatever, this meal will save your life. I've been eating it every day for as long as I can remember, so that's a pretty long time. A pretty long time. So we're gonna go and make the food. And I forgot to mention, this recipe is going to be included in my 28-day challenge that's coming up very, very soon. I am so excited because this is gonna be like a transformation contest. I've never done one of those before, and I'm giving out some crazy good prizes. Years ago, my mind would have been blown years ago if you told me that this is what I was giving out as prizes. So I'm really excited. Stay tuned for that. And this is just a sample meal from the recipe book that will be in, or from the meal plans that will be in the challenge. So yeah, quick, easy, delicious. And yeah, let's go upstairs to the kitchen. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is get your carton of egg whites. This is a must-have for this because you put a lot of egg whites. So if you do not have a carton, it's just not gonna be very efficient. So I weigh out my egg whites because, again, we put a lot. So I spray the pan with cooking spray. Ta-da! And then you tear the scale to 0. And then I usually do 200 grams, which is, I'm not really sure how much that is in terms of like a cup measurement. It's a lot though. It's probably like a cup or something. I don't know. Okay, so I have 190 grams here. Good enough. And then I put 2 to 3 eggs. Now remember, depending on your calories for the day and your needs, you may not use this same portion size. You might use less. You might use less. You might lose. Use less, use more is really hard to say, but that's what you might do. So, okay, so we got our egg whites in there. Now we're adding our 3rd egg. Oh my gosh, I saw this in the camera, and I thought I had like a yolk on the counter, and I was really sad. Then what we do is we put it on the stove. And then what I do is I put it at like a medium heat, and then I cover it. Okay, and then while that's happening, I take my veggies that I'm going to eat for the day, and I take them out of the freezer since I use frozen vegetables, and I put them in a bowl so they're just there defrosting, so when I want to eat, they're ready to go. them with green beans and broccoli, and I'm just going to like put them to the side on the counter over there, and then it's just ready. So then later on when I'm like hungry and feeling lazy, I don't have to put it out in a bowl or wait for it to defrost. It's just good to go. Good to go, good to go. So I like my eggs to be fairly runny, so it takes quite long, not quite long, but a little bit longer because of the fact you have so many egg whites. If you were trying to hurry it up, you could even cook the eggs in a separate pan. So then what I do is I watch it, and when it's close to being the level of cooked that I like, I add some light shredded cheese, and then I put the lid back on, and then from there it's ready to go. So we haven't done that yet, but next thing we would do is put our toast in the toaster, and then that's basically it. So you will see the finished product in a moment. What are you doing? Excuse me. Okay, now we let this cool. We let it cool. Cool, Baxter. Cool. Definitely toasted these a little bit more than planned, but that is all right. I will still eat it. It's not too bad. Little princess, she just wants food. That's all she wants. All she wants in life is just more food. I know, miss. Me too. Me too. Me too. Avocado! And then we cut up our tomato slices. Oh well, our precious eggies are over there, cooling down. You cool down, my sweet babies. My sweet, delicious babies. Ma. All right, so our delicious dish is coming along. It's coming close to a close. So now I'm slicing up my tomatoes. I'm putting a fuck ton of Himalayan salt, and then I am putting the tomatoes onto the toast that has the avocado. And now I am putting some Himalayan salt on my eggs. Okay, and what I do here is I just slice the parts that have the egg yolk, so I can put it on my toast. As you can see, they're split into their own little pieces. And then what we do is, no, I'm struggling. We add them on top of the toast. Now, sometimes I have another half, so I have like 3 little pieces, but today I'm just having 2. So one of the egg yolks will have to be eaten without a toast. No, no, Roxy, no. Okay, so I'm actually not super hungry today, this morning. So I'm gonna start with just having like the 2 little pieces of toasts with the 2 egg yolks. And then I may still have the 3rd one. And then I've got like a decent amount of stuff saved as like a little snackaroonie for later. So that is my easy peasy lemon squeezy breakfast. I want to work out sooner rather than later, so I don't want to be too full. So all I did was eat, that was actually a pretty small breakfast for me. All I did was eat the 2 egg yolks, and I left the 3rd for later. So now let's go up and see how nicely I have, how nicely I have everything for the day set up. Let's go see. Let's go see. Okay, so my veggies are here, ready to go. My extra eggs and tomato are here, ready to go. And voila. Okay, and then from there, typically, I am yearning for something sweet. So what do? We have a cold. Ow, ow. I twisted my wrist weird. We have a cold brew. Woo! So ever since quarantine, I started making my own cold brew because I'm not taking any chances. I'm not taking any chances. I got the Starbucks brand coffee, and then I make like a bunch. So it's like in this little container, lasts like 2 days if I'm lucky. And then I add sweetener to it. I add a 10% half and half like milk cream thingy, like a tablespoon of it. And then I add a tablespoon or 2 of this sugar-free syrup. Now, this one, I don't really know where to tell you where to get this because I get it from the store's called Winners. I don't know if that's just in Canada, but that's closed right now anyways. So I've ordered some new ones online that are going to be coming in, I don't know when, we'll find out. So I'll let you guys know, but basically any type of like sugar-free syrup. It says 0 calories, but there's tiny bits of calories, which isn't a big deal, but just some extra knowledge for you there. So yeah, then what I do is I sip my coffee and pet my dog, but I don't really, because my dog likes my parents better than me. So good. So good! Okay, so our 4th tip for staying on track, losing body fat, you know, all that jazz, is to have time blocks in your day. So what I mean by that is just, rather than being, you don't want to just go through your day and just wing it, because again, that's when people end up falling into cravings a little more than they would like to, or like even missing your workouts, just anything to keep you on the right track. If you have no structure and you just wake up and just like wing it, it's just so much easier for the day to go poorly. So even just a little bit of structure can make the world of difference. So what I do is have time blocks. So I know that for the first 2 hours after I wake up, I'm doing some really good focused work. After that, the plan was to start making my food, which we just looked at. And then I knew that within the next 2 hours, I was going to work out. So it doesn't have to be intense. I don't have to be like, at exactly 6:57 a.m. I will be doing X activity and blah, 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 blah. Because like I've tried that and then I just get very stressed because it just doesn't end up working that perfectly. Whereas if I have a time block, it's so much better because it gives a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of freedom, but you're still on the leash of a schedule. Again, this can help you stay on track. I know some people will have only specific times they allow themselves to eat. They'll say, okay, I'm gonna have my first meal at 9 a.m. and then I'm not going to eat again until my scheduled meal in whatever time block, like, I don't know, whatever it is you want, whatever works for you. So that's basically just the gist of it. You just want to have your day in time blocks so you can stay on track. So if you know that your workout is scheduled anytime between 12 p.m. and 2, I would say 2 hours is a good like time block to allow yourself. So let's say you say, oh, I want to try to do my workout at 12, but you end up doing it at 2. Maybe you got held up with work. Maybe you have kids. They like threw off your schedule. That's fine because you still have that like little extra cushioning of time. So that's something I really like doing. And then obviously it makes it easier to like time my meals around my workouts so I have a little bit more energy. And yeah, it's just a good way to have a little bit more consistency. And sometimes it takes some practice figuring out how to actually plan that properly. Like for me, it's trial and error. Like the night before, I might plan out specific time blocks and then maybe I'll be like, oh, that didn't work so well, so I'll kind of like shuffle things around, and it's just like a learning experience. But the point is, if you're really looking at how you're using your time and how like your habits evolve out of that, it can really, really help to make sure you're on the path that you want to be. Because again, it's so easy to just, since a lot of people are working from home right now, I know it's so easy to just take breaks and then you end up working all day because like your work is scattered and it's all over the place, and then you just kind of feel like you're constantly working, but like not totally, but you also feel like you don't really get any time to rest, and it just like sucks. I understand that so much as somebody who works from home all the time, and it's definitely been a learning process. It took me time. So yeah, the time block thing, just a little bit of scheduling will save your life. All right, and those are my lovely tips for you lovely people. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next Leaning Out with Laura episode, because now we are back in full force. We are leaning out. We're doing it all. We're doing it all. So like and subscribe if you had not, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!